welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and today's video is going to be my July reading wrap up and August TBR. Now I can't believe we're already at August, that's just, this year is flying by. So let's get into my reading stats for the month. So in July I read 12 books and DNF'd 1. I read a total of 5,549 pages, which is my best reading month of the year so far. But my average star rating was 3.5. I did have a 5-star read this month, but I did have a lot of 2 and 3-star reads as well. So the first book I read this month was The Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. This is the second book in the Justice of Kings series. Now I'm really enjoying this series so far. I gave this one 4 stars. So this book is written in the perspective of Helena, who is the apprentice of a justice of the king. It's a very political plot, so if you're not into very heavy political fantasy, I wouldn't recommend this series. I personally am loving this series so far and I'm really excited to finally get to the 3rd book, hopefully later in the year. Also with this series, it seems like there's a lot going on that's not actually relevant to the plot, so you're reading it sort of thinking well, what are we doing here, this doesn't seem relevant, but then it all connects at the end and the way it's written is just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'd highly recommend the series if you haven't already started it, and I gave this one 4 stars. I then read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now this one features in a Reading TikTok Hyped Books reading vlog, so I'll link that above if you haven't watched it, and I gave this one 2 stars. I didn't really like this one. This feels like it was written as a normal romance and then she's gone back and added the paranormal aspects in. It felt really disjointed. I really didn't like it. This really wasn't enemies to lovers. I didn't really feel like they had any chemistry. The mystery was more interesting in this, and to be honest, I've kind of forgotten even what that was about. This is not her best work in my opinion, and I wouldn't really recommend, but if you like paranormal romance you might like this one, but this one just wasn't for me. Like I said, 2 stars. I then read Powerless by Lauren Roberts, which again features in that TikTok reading vlog, and I gave this one 3 stars. So I did enjoy this one, but I really do feel like this didn't take inspiration from the Hunger Games. This was someone rewriting the Hunger Games and adding powers into it. This wasn't unique, this wasn't anything special. I really don't get the hype around all this because I just think the Hunger Games is so much better and it's obvious that she's sort of taken things from that. The girl even does archery. There's I really did feel like I was reading the Hunger Games and it just wasn't unique at all. The ending was quite interesting and I will be continuing this series, but yeah, this wasn't really unique in any way, but I did enjoy it for what it was, so I gave this one 3 stars. I then read The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez, which I gave 5 stars. Now this one was just emotionally devastating. I was sobbing on the last few pages. I actually had to put the book down and just cry because I just couldn't read this book anymore. It's got a lot of emotional punches with a romance that you really do root for, and yeah, I just love this one. Abby Jimenez has solidified herself as one of my new favourite authors. Abby Jimenez also writes about really difficult topics with such care, and I said this when I read Part of Your World by her I think last month or the month before. I will say there is trigger warnings in this one for infertility and death, so do check that out before you go into reading it if you are interested. It is very emotional. But yeah, I love this one, 5 stars, and I can't wait to read my next Abby Jimenez book. I then did a library reading vlog, which I will again link above if you haven't already checked it out. The first book I read for this was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and I gave this one 3 stars, but upon reflection it's probably more like a 2.5. It had a really interesting setup. So in this one we're following a nanny who lives in London. She moves up to Scotland to be a live-in nanny for this very rich family. Now the house is all full of technology. Nowadays a lot of people already have Alexas and smart bulbs and all those kind of things in their house, but I think this was written before that was all kind of popular because the character doesn't really know too much about it, so that was quite an interesting setup. This was just all over the place as well. It was really dragged out to begin with, and then the ending was just really rushed. The sort of thriller aspects weren't actually scary in my opinion. I haven't really read too many thrillers and I am a bit of a scaredy cat, so it doesn't actually take much to scare me. This just wasn't good in my opinion. A lot of what happened in this book was really irrelevant, and I just feel like a lot of it could have been cut out. This could have even just been a novella. We didn't really need a full-length novel for this. It feels like she really didn't know what she was doing with this one. It was just all over the place, and yeah, I really didn't like this one. So maybe upon reflection more of a 2-star rating, but I did give it 3 initially. I then read The Girl King by Mimi Yu, which I gave 2.5 stars. I didn't really like this one. I'm glad I read it because it's been on my TBR for years. But yeah, this was not really anything special. A lot of information was dropped into conversations as if we should already know this information, but you also wonder how the characters actually knew this information. So one of the characters, Nock, is a shapeshifter, And in the book, literally in like the couple of chapters, and he discovers that he's a shapeshifter. So he didn't even know he was a shapeshifter. And then sort of a couple of chapters down, someone's like, oh yeah, you're the prince of the shapeshifters. And it's like, okay, how do you know that? And then Nock's like, oh yeah, I am. And it's like, how do you know that? Because a couple of chapters ago, you didn't even know you were a shapeshifter. And it's never been mentioned. It was just, yeah, it was, I just really didn't like that. It really felt like we were told things, not shown things. And even that wasn't even done in a very good way either. The plot jumps around a lot as well. It got quite confusing, and the really frustrating thing about this was the first 200 pages were really, really strong, and then sort of the latter 2/3 of this book really let this one down. And unfortunately, I won't be continuing this series. I just really didn't like it. I then read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, which is the last book for that library reading vlog, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was my first Christina Lauren book, I think. This was a really quick read and it was a really interesting setup. I really did like the love story and I liked the family dynamic that we had. I really liked the characters in this, but I really do feel like it was very surface level. Like, we didn't really get to know the characters very well. We did watch their relationship develop, but again, I didn't really feel like we knew them. It's kind of hard to explain what I mean by this. I really do feel like I was just kind of watching over them. I didn't really get to know them, so I just didn't really feel attached to any of the characters, and I was rooting for them, but I can't really tell you much of what happened. It was just a bit forgetful, to be honest, but I did like this one. I did give this one 3.5. I think if we had connected to the characters a bit more, I would have given this a higher rating, and I will be checking out more of Christina Lauren's books. I know that they've got a massive backlog of books to read, and I did enjoy this one, so I will be carrying on with their work. Next, I read Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, which I gave 4 stars. So this is the 4th book in the Red Rising series, but really like the start of the second trilogy. Now this one was really, really good. I really enjoyed the writing style. Again, Pierce Brown is just absolutely fantastic at writing fights and battles. I do feel like this was a lot of setup though for the next 2 books in the series. Obviously there's like a 10 or 15 year time jump between the 3rd book and the 4th book. So there's a lot of catching up to do with where the characters are, where the world is, and it's really interesting to see how, you know, in a lot of books, like the revolution wins and then that's the end. We don't actually see what happens after that. And it actually shows that sometimes revolution and change isn't easy to come by as we are led to believe. So that was really interesting. It was really nice being back with all these characters again, and I did really enjoy this one. But yeah, it was definitely set up for the next few books, which I am really excited to read because I just know it's going to break my heart. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one 4 stars. I then read The Bronzed Beasts by Roshani Chokshi. I did a reading vlog for Final Book Support Group, which is hosted by Steph over at Steph Loves, which I think will be the next video after this one, so you can see my full thoughts at the time on the next few books there. This is the 3rd book in the Gilded Wolf series, and I would recommend this series if you like Six of Crows. It's kind of like Six of Crows, but in a historical France setting. It's really, really good, and the magic system is really, really cool as well. Every character in this has an interesting backstory as well, so when you're reading from, if you're reading from any of the characters' perspectives, you're really interested, you're rooting for them. It was just absolutely fantastic. I love the found family aspect of this series as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, the magic system and the world is really, really unique, and I'd highly recommend this series. And I gave this one 4 stars. Fantastic end to this series. I then read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This is the 2nd book in the Knock 'em Out series, and I gave this one 4 stars. So in this one, we're following Nash, who's Knox's brother. He's the chief of police in Knock 'em Out, and it's him finding love. He went through a lot in the 1st book. He's got a lot of PTSD, and he's really, really trying. And yeah, this was just really, really good. I loved this one a lot more than the 1st book in this series. I do think that the 3rd act sort of breakup was a bit pointless and out of nowhere, and it was resolved literally within a chapter, so I don't even know why that even happened. I do think as well a lot of this could be cut out. Like, this is a sort of contemporary romance novel. It's only 600 pages, like it's 574 pages. This does not need to be this long. I did enjoy it, but yeah, a lot of it I was just kind of reading, I was like, we could have cut a good chunk of this out, which is not relevant. But yeah, I am enjoying this series, and I'm really excited to continue. Maybe next month, we'll see. But yeah, really, really enjoying this one so far. I then read Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. This is the 2nd book in the Kings of the Wild series. They're more like companion novels, really. Kings of the Wild follows a band of sort of old mercenaries who've all retired, and they have to get the band back together to go and save one of their daughters, Bloody Rose, who joins her own mercenary band and gets in a lot of trouble. And this one is following Rose on her adventures kind of after that. This had a really cool plot. There was lots of action, lots of battles. It was really, really fun to read. And this also followed a really interesting cast of characters. We had humans, we had all sorts of different species working together. it was just really, really good. I would say if you do enjoy your fantasy and you want kind of more of like a standalone kind of series, like you could read these two books on their own. You could read one, not read the other kind of thing. But yeah, this is really, really fun. I'd highly recommend this series if you haven't already read it. I then DNF'd The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. Now, I did read The Atlas 6, I think early last year, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. And I thought I could just jump back into this one. I couldn't really remember too much of what's happened. And I have to say, like, I read the first maybe 40 or 50 pages and I was just really lost. I feel like this book in particular, I don't really feel like I felt this way with the Atlas 6, but this one just was written really pretentiously, and like just we go off on a lot of tangents. So like the initiates, like they're fighting each other, and then like we're fighting and then we just go off on this tangent about, oh, here's something that happened in my childhood. And it's just kind of like I was getting really lost, really confused, and I just wasn't enjoying this one. And I was just kind of thinking like, I don't really care enough to reread the Atlas 6 and carry on, especially when I've heard not so great things about the second and especially the third book in this series. So I'm just not really interested enough to carry on. I mean, if you've enjoyed this series and you think it's worth me rereading and carrying on, you might be able to persuade me. Like, I am kind of interested, but there's just so many books I would rather read rather than rereading the Atlas 6 and then carrying on when I know that it's probably not going to end very well. So yeah, this was a DNF, unfortunately. And then the final book I read this month was Reckless by Elsie Silver. Now, I read this in a day. I read this because I'm doing a spoiler-filled reading vlog for the Chestnut Spring series, and I love this one. Spoilers! This one is following Theo and Winter, and Winter is Summer's sister, and it's how they have like a one night stand and then something happens that basically ties them together, and it's how their relationship develops. But I really didn't think I would enjoy this one because I really didn't like Winter as a character in the previous book. She does make appearances, especially as she is Summer's sister. I really didn't like her, but I've completely changed my mind. I absolutely love her, and I think this might be like my second favourite of this series. I absolutely loved this one, and I gave this one 4 stars. I think I might actually bump it up to a 4.5. I'll have to have a think when I finish the series, like have a think about how I feel about all of them. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. This series is kind of everywhere at the moment. I would say I didn't think I would enjoy this series. I've never read cowboy like romances before, but I'm absolutely loving this series. Like the characters, the family, like everything is just absolutely incredible. And Elsie Silver is definitely one of my new favorite like romance authors. I'm really excited to carry on with her after I finish the Chestnut Spring series. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. So those were the books I read in July, and I'll just quickly run through a little bit of a TBR for August. So one of the first books I'm hoping to finish will obviously be Hopeless by Elsie Silver. In this one, we're following Bo, who's like the third Eaton brother. We haven't really heard too much about him. This is his story, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to this one. As you know, I've loved this series so far, so hopefully I can get to this one this month. I'm also hoping to get to Happy Place by Emily Henry. I wanted to read this one in July, but I didn't get around to it. I have got a week off coming in I think it's the first full week of August, and we're going to a like spa, so I'm hoping that I can get some reading done. I'm not doing anything themed that week, like reading vlog wise. I'm hoping to get to a couple of books that I've been really, really wanting to read, just haven't gotten around to, and this is one of them. I absolutely love Emily Henry. I've been really desperate to read this, and like also the cover is just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I'm really hoping to get to this one. And then a themed reading vlog I will be doing over one of the weekends is reading the highest and lowest rated book on my TBR. So for that one, I'll be reading Tessa Bailey's Secretly Yours. This is like the lowest rated book on my TBR that I own. I do enjoy Tessa Bailey, so I do wonder why this one has got such a low rating. I don't know too much about this one, to be honest. I just bought it because it's Tessa Bailey and I do enjoy her work. And then the highest rated one on my TBR that I own is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is a Cosmin novel, and I know a little bit about this one. I know that this is most people's favourites of his secret projects. I'm hoping to catch up on all of those before 5th Storm My Archive book comes out, so I need to really get shifty on, because that does come out later this year and I haven't read any of them. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this one, and we'll see what I think in that reading vlog. And then I will be doing a reading the oldest books on my TBR reading vlog as well, and I'm hoping to read 3 books for that one. The first one is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This one's been on my TBR for literally years. All I know is that it's set in sort of like 1800s New Orleans, and it's got some vampires, because I keep saving this for Halloween and then I don't read it. So yeah, I finally got it out from my library and hoping to get to that one in that reading vlog. And then I'm hoping to get to Book of 1,000 Days by Shannon Hale. All I know about this one is I think it's like a sort of a fairy tale retelling. That's what Shannon Hale is really known for. I did read years ago her Books of Bayan series and I absolutely loved them. And then I bought this one and then just haven't gotten to it. So that will hopefully get read this month. And then I'm also hoping to read Bow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I read Dance of Thieves a couple of years ago. I do remember what happened in that book, so I don't need to reread it. I'm hoping to get to this one. This one's been on my TBR for so long, and then I can just get this series finished and I'm all cut up then. And then a couple of other books that I'm maybe hoping to get. I'm hoping to read a couple of my Fairy Loot books this month. Again, I'm really behind on my subscription, need to catch up on that. And then we'll just see. I think the rest of the month we'll just kind of read what we like. I'm trying to not do so many themed reading vlogs because it does really restrict what I want to read. I mean, I want to read all of these books, but you know, sometimes in the moment you think, oh, I really want to read a fantasy, and then you doing a romance reading vlog and you're like, shit. So yeah, that is kind of it for the month. We'll see what I read, I guess, in my wrap up and my reading vlog. That is it for today's video. Please comment down below, let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think. My TBR, do you think I'll enjoy them? I'd love to chat to you guys below. But yeah, please don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it and subscribe for more bookish content from me. And I'll see you in my next video, guys. Bye!